Confirmed. Okay, so I thought we could start with this explanation of what changed in 2022 by comparison with our earlier meeting and discussion of a similar material that emerged post 2014 annexation of Crimea by Russia and the proxy war in Donbass that had been going on. And my colleagues and I, we wrote a book that came out in 2019 called Songs of War. Called A War of Songs. Yeah, A War of Songs. It's a reflection of this conflict, Russo-Ukrainian conflict on both sides. My co-authors were called Arve Hansen, David Emil Wikström, and Ingvar Steinholt. And now we're working on the next sort of installment, because what we've discovered was that the reaction of musicians to the all-out invasion in late February this year produced in 5 months of active military conflict on both sides around 100 songs, new songs, completely new songs that we are monitoring and trying to make sense of it. So what I would like to do now is to perhaps give an introduction to this material. We will only scratch the surface because there is probably time for 10% of what's been going on in this sphere. And I'm only talking about the 100 songs that the four of us have become aware of. There is a good chance that there is more out there. We just don't know about it because it's overwhelming. The quantity is overwhelming.
Yeah, the combination of people being able to use the internet, musicians going out and making things themselves, DIY music, and the passion for bringing this new material. Oh, that was awful. But yeah, the subject of the war, and it must be stimulating people every day because there's things that people just want to respond to.
That's true, but there is also a very interesting technical aspect. This time, Russia has been obviously on the propaganda side canceling or banning various media outlets that produce factual information that Russia doesn't want its citizens to see. But it does not concern YouTube, interestingly enough. It still works in Russia in the same way as it has always been from its inception. Russians have unrestricted access to YouTube, and in that sense, songs become an interesting kind of way of informing those who want to find out about this side of things, about at least the emotional, if not necessarily factual, content of such endeavor, of heavily politicized, naturally, very strongly worded sometimes, but still you can, if you want to, you can find it unrestricted and learn from there how far things went.
Yeah, and not only the words, obviously the words, but then you have the videos as well, many of which I've seen are using journalistic coverage or self-filmed coverage of conflict scenes.
Yeah, videos come, of course, of different quality and sophistication. You get simply someone sitting in a cellar waiting for the air raid to pass, and just this person and a guitar and a selfie, basically a video making of him or herself singing a song. Then you have some inserts of everyday photos, videos that journalists and people on the ground make of the war actions, and it gets added as well. Sometimes an old cartoon would be rehashed with additional images and new words and so on, and inserted there. And then obviously you also have live concerts that still sometimes take place, and all of it produces a very powerful, comprehensive picture of the art that's been inspired by this latest war, or should I say the latest acute phase of the war that's been going on for 8 years now.
Yes.
So in the samples that I have chosen for you, Jude, I've tried to do several things. First, to introduce a variety of genres, so that it's not all, you know, rock ballads or some satirical stuff, parodies and so on. The picture is much broader than that. But also, I wanted to show the broadness of positions, and I will understandably focus on Ukrainian stuff, but also on some Russian reactions to this war, which are not anti-Kremlin. There are some like that as well, but mostly coming from Russians living abroad.
Yeah.
Those Russians who stay on, they more often than not, the musicians there, quite a few of them, express their support for the Kremlin. That's one way of doing things for them. Another is writing ambivalent songs that sort of get the message across that not everything is black and white, that things are complex, complicated, and so on and so forth. So they try to represent perhaps the relationship between Russia and Ukraine as that of a couple that is on the verge of divorce, or maybe it's a violent divorce as well. And who knows from an outside position who's right here and who's wrong.
We had that in the first batch. I remember that being in the first batch of song. We had families, little sister, big brother songs about that relationship between, I guess, Ukraine and Russia.
That's it. Yeah. So that trend continues, and it's fully justified because there are many mixed marriages. And until recently, I suppose Russians and Ukrainians didn't really think too often about what they really are if one of their parents is Russian and another Ukrainian.
Yeah, I've just come back from Barcelona, and I met a young man who's away. He's a Russian young man, and his wife's Ukrainian, and they're both trying to seek somewhere where they can live together. And they're looking at Georgia at the moment for where they might be able to go. But yeah, they had to bring their currency out in cryptocurrency, and so yes.
I've heard a number of stories like that through friends of mine and their friends. Yeah, Georgia, of course, is one of the countries that to which Russians do not require a visa. So Georgia, Armenia, that's a natural choice to go and stay. And they're also from the former Soviet Union, these two independent republics or countries, and therefore many people there still speak Russian. So it's not that difficult. I mean, Russians could go visa-free to Turkey as well for a lengthy period of time, relatively lengthy, but then they would rather travel on from there somewhere else. And that's what's happening. But this is by the by. The process is extremely painful. I would compare it with trying to separate a pair of Siamese twins surgically without anesthetics, and no success of such an operation is guaranteed at all. So what we hear, my colleagues and I, when we compare the new material to the one that we've analyzed between 2014 and 2018, 2019, is that the strength of feelings is much higher than before. And the attempts that could be visible in the earlier material, when Ukrainians would write songs in Russian, trying to convince Russians sometimes that they have a point, and expecting maybe Russians to listen to reason. This is practically absent in what we see today. Most songs written by Ukrainians are written in Ukrainian, which Russians do not readily necessarily understand. They lettering. So sometimes there is a translation in the clip as well. But if there is a translation in the clip, if it's not just printing out the words in Ukrainian so that it would be easier for people to read and perhaps make some sense of what the song is saying, the translation goes into English.
That's
So
what I
it's not an
yeah.
appeal to Russia anymore. It's an appeal to the world outside, trying to explain the Ukraine's position and suffering, and it's a cry for help.
Yeah.
So there is a definite shift, emotional and rational shift from what we had seen before February 2022.
Yeah.
The Ukrainians do it from more or less unified standpoint. We've been attacked by an aggressor. Russia is an aggressor, so they pull no punches, calling Russians names. I don't know if in my translations I could quote verbatim actually what sometimes is being said. If you think it's inappropriate, please feel free to delete the words like that from the account from my translation. But they are there, and they're there understandably so for a reason that now the old scheme when Ukrainians are a younger brother or sister or something, that doesn't work any longer. The desire is obvious to draw a line, maybe forever, but certainly for the foreseeable future, between these two nations somehow. And the reason is the large number of casualties and atrocities on the territories that Russia has taken over so far, and also an unusually high number of civilian casualties in the areas that are not directly involved in the war actions, in the battle. Okay, so do you have any questions? Perhaps you'd like to focus on something before we proceed with characterizations of each individual song.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the makeup, I guess the gender makeup of it, you know, and the people who are singing the songs. I think the people, yeah, who are making the recordings and who are making the tracks. I'm interested in. And maybe we can deal with it a little bit when we come to the individual songs, but I am interested in who's, not only what's being sung, but in a way who's singing it as well, or the kind of person who's singing each song, you know, where they're coming from.
Yeah, well, naturally, I've tried to give a chance to every voice, not only male voice, which is dominant in the rock scene, in the pop scene. We know there are still more men than women, simply numerically. Here, many men and women are involved in direct battle in the front line in Ukraine. There are sort of female soldiers, female detachments, especially formed for this war effort. But there are also many women singing interesting songs about the war, how they are involved or are planning to be involved. So there is gender equality, if not parity, numerically, but certainly women contribute what they can, and they do it very well. So at least two songs in this particular selection of mine are written and performed by women, although there are many more. I mean, the whole program could be based just on the female performers in this particular selection of songs, or this new material of songs that have come up since February this year.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, I guess we should go into the individual songs now. I'm just wondering how to do it, because we don't need to actually play the songs now because we're talking about them, but We could do. How should we do this?
I could name each particular song. We don't have to play them naturally. And I can say something about the performers, about the band, and I could contextualize it a little bit, and I could give a few words of translation, the crucial kind of bits of the song. Not every word, because it would take too long.
No.
And I'll be naming them in the order. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing as you. Shall we do it in the order of the document?
Yeah, and I'll be naming those performers, those bands. So if you want to change the order later, please feel free to do so. But then you will know which ones I'm referring to in my talk. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Sounds organized.
Thank you. So the first song is by a rap band called Bota She. Which is a combination of the first syllables of the names or nicknames of three rap performers from Ukraine, Bo, Shershen, and Tasya. So Bota She sang this song that is dedicated to a Russian warship that attacked in one of the first days of the war, the Snake Island, where many Ukrainian border guards were located. And the warship suggested that they should give up and surrender. And the border guards replied, Russian warship, fuck off. And that was recorded online, radio exchange, if you like, between the warships and the border guards. The bodyguards actually did surrender in the end, and they had kind of exchange of the captives at some later stage in the war, and those some of those border guards could come back and tell their story in Ukraine after they had been freed in this prisoners of war exchange. So we know the background to this story, but the main thing is that the phrase Russian warship, go fuck yourself or fuck off has become a meme. I don't know if you've come across it, but they make badges like that with Ukrainian national colors and this inscription in English. And these badges really go like hotcakes at various charity events in order to raise funds to support Ukraine.
Yes.
So again, I'm not sure how often I can say fuck on your program, but this is merely a quote. This is merely a quote. It's become a cultural phenomenon, this phrase, and this is what Bota She is using in their song that goes like this in the refrain. Russian warship, fuck off. We are one big family here in my country, meaning Ukraine, and no one has ever needed you. You're doing things that makes the entire world shudder. Yeah, so that's what they say. And this introduces an entire subsection of songs that my colleagues and I are working with at the moment, analyzing them, that can be termed novelty songs, because they describe not only new feelings and new emotions that have emerged since the beginning of the latest phase of the war, the military conflict between Ukraine and Russia, but also with new objects. For example, it transpired that this drone that Ukrainians bought from Turkey, called Bayraktar, has been extremely efficient in its military action against the invaders, the Russian invaders. And there are apparently numerous songs dedicated to Bayraktar as a kind of folk hero. And rumor has it that even pets are now called Bayraktar, and even some children apparently, if it's a boy, can be called Bayraktar upon their birth, and if it's a girl, Javelina, because of javelin, yet another kind of rocket launcher or rocket type that has also proved to be very helpful at the initial stage of the war. So this next song that I would like to mention is by Taras Borovok, Taras being the first name, Borovok being the surname. I'm not entirely sure what sort of performer he is. Very little is known about him personally. Botashe is a known act. It's been around for some time. Taras Borovok is a surprise for me personally. It's a kind of bedroom pop. Bedroom pop when you record something in your bedroom, it's not particularly sophisticated, not necessarily, but it could be a catchy tune with a number of followers higher than expected with limited means of recording. So we know that bedroom pop sometimes can be quite successful. And this one has become a popular song which goes like this. The invaders came to Ukraine on military vehicles and a new uniform, but the equipment melted a little thanks to the Bayraktar drone. And the thing goes Bayraktar, Bayraktar, and so on.
It's very catchy. I heard this one, and it's very catchy. That the chorus, the tag is very catchy. Bayraktar. I mean, I guess when you've got these words that of the objects of war, they're repeated, it's really rhythmic and of song.
I don't know what this word means, if anything, in Turkish, but certainly this is a word that had not really been hadn't had an active presence in Ukrainian Russian language since, and now they have all learned it, and the song actually ends with the word that even the Russian Tsar knows the meaning of the word Bayraktar, and it nicely rhymes at the end. Russian Tsar, obviously a reference to President Putin.
Yeah, there's a lot of wit, isn't there, in these types of satiric songs?
Plenty. Humor, of course, is one weapon that should always remain at people's disposal, whatever the circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, if I can continue with the next song, it's not only military objects such as weaponry that have become subjects for these novelty songs, but also geographical location. I don't know how many people have heard before of this airfield near Kherson, in the Kherson area, which is a region largely taken over for the time being by the Russian troops. But this airfield called Chernobyevka has become famous because Russians landed their troops there many times, and this airfield had been bombarded by the Ukrainian weaponry regularly. But Russians, regardless of the casualties, they just kept landing their troops there. So by the time this next song appeared, I will name it in a moment, 9 times it happened so that Russians' descent came onto this airfield to fulfill whatever the order they had, and they had been bombed out of existence. So Ukrainians have a kind of humorous connection to the word Chernobyevka. That's what the airfield is called. We are going to listen now to a band called Spiv Brativ, which in Ukrainian means brothers singing. There are 4 brothers in this band from Cherkasy, which is in central Ukraine, not really involved in frontline combat yet, and hopefully won't be able, there won't be any involvement there. This song, this is just a fragment from it, says, "You'll get it as many times as you'll ask for it. It's a miracle. You're simply amazing." That's sort of Ukrainians singing the song, addressing it to Russians, but in Ukrainian. At the time of writing, which was on the 25th of March, 2022, this is when this song was released. At the time of writing, this happened 9 times. You can't do anything about it. You're fulfilling an order. Lullaby in Chernobyevka, it's a place of strength. Fly in, fall asleep, and die. Quite a cruel, actually, song, not particularly insulting, but there seems to be no regret about the Russian casualties there at all. And the Ukrainian original makes a play on sounds. Bye-bye, Chernobyevka, this "bye" sort of component in the name of the geographical location is transformed into a mock lullaby song.
Yeah, mock lullaby. So that's like a song form. It's using a traditional song form to that's usually done for putting children to sleep and sort of making a satirical point to support war. Yeah.
Yeah, lulling someone to sleep, but this is sleep for eternity. This is a slumber from which you will never wake up, that sort of thing. Jude, we've got less than 9 minutes left.
Let's reboot.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. We could reboot now, couldn't we? And then we don't have to.
Whatever. Maybe I'll do one more song. Yeah, and then it's not gonna take a huge amount of time. It's a song by women, by Natalia Faleon, who's a musical teacher and a theater manager from Western Ukraine. She was educated in Kiev, and she was at some point a winner of the Ukraine Has Talent competition. And she has a all-female band, which is a kind of combination of singing, of actors and singers. Yeah. And this song that she's singing is in a strange style of march that also can be danced to if you speed things up a little. And the name for this song is Women Gather. And women gather to do a particular thing, to try and defeat the Russians, the Russian invaders. The song goes like this. You wanted to conquer us in a couple of days and ended up without your teeth and underwear. You have felt the strength and bravery of the Cossacks now, you being the Russians.
Yeah.
But Ukrainian women haven't even started yet. And the refrain goes, you will find out, Putin, what our cruelty means, because when women get fed up, they will find you even in your secret hideout and will sink their teeth in your throat. Okay, so that's how it goes. That's the female voice. Peaceful ladies. Some of them, if you watch the video, are middle-aged. Yeah, make no mistake. They know what to do when they find where President Putin is hiding.
Yeah, it's reminding me of Greek tragedies and chorus when I see this kind of act with a group of women chanting together about revenge and being warlike.
Totally agree. Yes, the parallel going from the depth of time and European history that had been violent long enough and unfortunately still remains so from time to time.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall we reboot, do you think?
Yeah, let's do that. I'll send a new link because I probably have to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.